Denver Nuggets have fired their head coach and their GM. I mean, can you imagine? Well, that's like getting Bergman and Morales out of here.
On April 8th, with the season ending in less than a week.
The only person that has the power to get rid of me and Bergman is Ramona Shelburne, who joins us now to tell us what's up, Denver. Right, Momo?
Are you going to make a move on Morales and Bergman?
You know what? I think I might have to use that as leverage for Manny's 4.
There you go.
Get around to that.
There you go. So, Momo, take me through it. I mean, how surprised were you with the news that came down, a half hour or so ago that both Malone and Calvin Booth are out?
I was walking out of my workout. You guys saw me. I think I texted the workout chain. DeMarco probably has that. You probably have that selfie video I sent you.
It went bing.
Because, this is the time of year where we're not, on high alert. I know when I'm supposed to be on high alert for breaking news. I had just checked in with a bunch of teams that right now we're laying this coach might get fired, that GM might get fired. But Denver is going to be in the playoffs. You're not checking on Michael Malone right now. This is, they're in the playoffs, at least the play-in. And so, I don't know. I guess Memphis just reset the clock on when people make moves.
So this is the new normal? We're just going to fire guys?
Guess, look, I wrote a story on the Nuggets at the beginning of this year. And I remember people thinking this was a little dire for a team that had already been to had great playoff success, had Jokic. You never really feel a lot of drama there in Denver. But the truth is, when you have an expensive roster, okay, so they're paying 3 guys. They're paying Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Aaron Gordon. And they have a 4th guy who the previous regime paid, and that's Michael Porter Jr., okay? So that's 4 guys who are making really big salaries, which leaves very little money for everybody else. And it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the coach and the GM to work together to find players to fill those spots. The Nuggets won because they had guys like KCP, they had Jeff Green, they found really good bargains at a time when to fill those extra roles. They had this sort of strength and numbers thing, and they systematically let most of those guys go and tried to replace them with young players that are drafted and developed. I actually think that's the right way to do it. You could make a case there's 1 or 2 guys that they let go that they wish they had back. Bruce Brown was really good for them, but he hasn't really been good elsewhere. Jeff Green, good steadying force, I guess, but KCP hasn't had a great year in Orlando. So did they really make mistakes on those guys, or did they not lean hard enough into developing the young guys and building a sustainable culture? I think what was clear early on is that they just they were not aligned between front office and coach. I think they're both very strong-willed. They're both stubborn. And when you have that combination where coach and GM don't see eye to eye and they're not talking to each other very often, you kind of have to have go-betweens, who deal with one or other of them. That's a tough situation. I'm shocked they did it now, though. Usually you let people go through a playoffs and see what happens. But, I guess maybe why not?
Yeah.
See if you can change things up. What's the dead coach bounce?
Dead cat bounce, yeah. Never celebrate a guy getting fired, either one of them.
No.
Unless it's something they did that's outside basketball, what have you. But what do you make of Denver from this point on? What do you think of their chances in the postseason now?
Look, David Edelman's a really good coach. He's a future head coach in this league. He's interviewed for a lot of positions. He's going to do a good job. They have a very, very capable guy stepping in here. And he's a completely different energy than Michael Malone. Michael Malone is fiery and hard-nosed and gets into guys when they come into camp out of shape and stuff. Edelman is more of I would say he's a kind of an offensive guy. And his dad was Rick Edelman. Obviously, he's got a great pedigree, just like Michael Malone does. But look at how much pressure is on these teams. Everyone who is from 2 to 8 in the Western Conference, and maybe Houston's getting a little separation now, but let's say 3 to 8. They all have basically the same record. It's just, do you feel better right now than you did before? That's really the only separator. And it's kind of amazing to me that Denver just did this. This is 3 games left to go.
It's crazy.
It makes sense.
Jokic on it.
I'm sorry, Ramona. You said something that I wanted to follow up on. Sure. There's no way that this happens without Jokic blessing it, right? It's the NBA. The star player has a say in these matters, or at least is consulted in these matters. Could he have stopped it if he didn't want it to happen, or was he complicit in it happening?
I could see him stopping it if he was, but I honestly don't know enough reporting wise to know if his fingerprints were on this.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you in the past, I have felt like he has a pretty good alignment with Malone. I felt like they had a good understanding. Like Jokic isn't afraid to be coached. He wants to be coached.
Yeah.
He likes that Malone is hard nosed. I mean, he's from Serbia, and that he doesn't have an attitude like, he's not your typical superstar, right? Like he's not afraid of somebody being a hard nosed, stubborn guy. Now, the rest of the team, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how guys like getting called out, guys, like the way that Malone kind of holds their feet to the fire sometimes. He's an old school guy, and I think that doesn't always play well. Now, before they won a championship, I had heard, like they had trouble getting over the top, right? They had trouble breaking through. And so if they didn't win that year in the championship, I wouldn't have been shocked if Malone got fired, right?
Yeah.
But they did win a championship, and he's been there for 10 years, and he has remarkable respect from the best player in the league. So I don't know. I don't see Jokic being a guy that pushed him off the ledge there. He doesn't feel
maybe
like
not
that.
pushed him off the ledge, but
have to help him back.
I would think, and you know far better than I do
Yeah.
how these things actually go down, Ramona. But is there, before they make the final decision, do they take his temperature on, hey, we're thinking about this, what do you think about this? And maybe he shrugs his shoulders like, do whatever you want, it's not my team. Maybe he doesn't care. Does he at least get looped in before the final shot is fired?
They might inform him.
Yeah.
They might. I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty big move that they made. They didn't just fire the coach; they fired the GM too. And Calvin Booth, like, I don't know if people know him. He was a guy who played in the NBA. He's like 6'10". He's wicked smart, as you would
Wicked smart.
say, right?
Yeah.
He's wicked smart, and when you talk to him, I think he's a great mix of basketball IQ and also understanding how the salary cap works, and he's done a really good job of managing a very, very tight budget there. But you do hear things like, there's he's not as well liked in the building. There's people who've kind of felt like, I think all their assistant coaches are kind of in a different spot where they haven't been extended, their contracts haven't been extended. When I did the story in November, my understanding was Booth was about to get an extension, but that had been the case for like 6 months, like on the 1 yard line. So I don't know what was holding it up. If it was the Kroenkes, I know they're the managers, they're the owners of the Rams. They certainly spent money on the Rams, and they pay their employees well there. I mean, I live in Woodland Hills, and I drive by where their new facility is.
It's going to be great.
They
Yeah.
just
Ram a
announced
lot.
gazillions of dollars being spent to build us up. Thank you for investing in the 818, Stan and Josh.
If you and I were GM coach, and we had a player like Jokic, we got to figure out how we're going to get along. I mean, I would not want to screw this up. Screw up his era.
That was the whole point of my story in November, which is you have the greatest player in the game right now. I mean, we can talk about Shea and the MVP race, whatever, but like just top to bottom, Jokic is unbelievable. He's a generational talent, and he's easy to manage. He's not a
Travis,
diva.
There you go.
We could disagree on everything, and look, as long as we have him at least in front of him, we're going to be on the same page.
Yes.
Because we all want the same things. I wouldn't want to screw this up.
He doesn't make noise. He doesn't subtweet anyone. He doesn't, he doesn't take 3 days to talk to the media after blowing a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then when he does speak to the media, says, I don't know. I don't have any answers. I don't know. Do you guys have been following the Westbrook stuff lately? Jokic is accountable. He's solid. He doesn't cause any problems.
Captain America. You're right.
Oh, my
I
God.
know.
This is a dream superstar to have as your franchise cornerstone. And he plays every night. He doesn't want to load manage. You have to hold him
I
out.
started out being mad at Denver for doing this. Now I'm mad at these two boneheads for screwing this up. That you had to make this move before the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think either of them are boneheads. I think this is created by the salary cap, by the new CBA. I really do. And I think they were put in a tough position by ownership. And I don't want to lay it all at their feet, but I can tell you, when you go to Denver, there's a couple things you notice, okay? Their practice court is in the arena, which is this doesn't happen anymore. It's like the same practice court that on the floor of the building that they've used forever. The Avalanche plays there, and theirs is kind of an embarrassing facility too. Like, it doesn't feel like you're going to the home of the world champions who have the best player in the league. Like, you know what I mean? You know, you get that feel like when you go to a gleaming new facility and everyone's paid well and everyone's like, nobody got like, you know, they didn't get the spoils of victory after they won.
Momo,
like they let guys go after they won.
One last one before we let you go. It just, does this move change their math at all as far as their ability to win the Western Conference? Are they going to end up where they're going to end up had they stayed the course, had they waited to the end of the season? Does this change that at all?
Maybe, in just the sense that whatever dynamic had been going on there had gotten pretty toxic. You know, I mean, I could feel it when I was there in November. They've sort of been playing like this all year long. And Jokic, Jokic is like, I'm just happy we have a chance. I'm happy to be here. You know, he's such a good guy, but you know, maybe they get the dead coach bounce, right? Maybe that's the best you could do at this point. Clearly, they're looking for a new architect and leader now, and I think they'll have a lot of interest in this job.
I wonder who gets the gig. Yeah.
Well,
there'll be no shortage of suitors.
To Coach Jokic, that's a pretty good. It's a pretty good jump off point.
Good starting place. But they do have decisions to make because, you know, Michael Porter Jr. is a nice luxury item, but he's paid too much for your fourth best player, you know, and Jamal Murray is paid a max. He got a max, and he hasn't really lived up to it yet. You see it in spurts, but he keeps getting hurt, and he came into camp out of shape. And
you see it against the Lakers. It's the only.
That's
right.
About when you see it all the time, right?
Yeah,
but,
no, he kills the
like,
Lakers.
I still think they're the Denver Nuggets because the Denver Nuggets to me are not about the coach or the GM.
True.
They're about the guy in the middle.
They didn't fire
For sure.
Jokic. Yeah.
Thanks, Momo.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.